Hi again. Glad you're back. We're here for another lesson of language. This is intended to be for Thursday the 16th, lesson 147, page 287. So if you can get that out and have it ready, we'll get started. Let's pray. Father, again, we come to you needing your just your input. We need you to help our minds to think and function. We know, God, that we can be distracted on days like this and we can want to do other things. And yet, God, you've put these before us, and so we need to be faithful to do what you've asked. So thank you for what you're going to teach us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, I wanted, before we get back into the independent and dependent clauses, to do a little tiny bit of review from a couple of days ago. Actually, I guess it would be last week. Here are some sentences that I've put up here, and they are fine sentences. They're fine because they have a verb, they have a subject, the program ended. It has a complete thought, the program ended. But in order to make it a better sentence, a sentence that is more along your lines of learning, we could add a prepositional phrase. So I don't want you to forget about those prepositional phrases, because that's going to be, if this is the cake, those prepositional phrases, those adjectives, those adverbs are going to be the frosting that's going to make the cake better and more tasty for your listener. The program ended, you could say, after one. That would be a prepositional phrase. Here's your preposition, and here's your noun over here. All right, you see how that makes it a more complete sentence? The program ended after one. The robins built a nest. It's a fine sentence. It's got a verb, built. It's got a subject, robins. They built a nest. That's great, a complete thought. But in order to make it better, we could say perhaps the robins built a nest maybe in the tree. That would help it to be more descriptive and to be a better sentence. When you add on, you're actually adding to the sentence, and again, those prepositions can come at the beginning, in the middle, or the end, but they are going to make the sentence a little bit more complete and have some more frosting to it. The rain was falling when? When was it falling? It was falling on the ground, okay? On the ground. That could be a prepositional phrase that could add a little bit more meaning to it. We've got a preposition here, we've got a noun here. Those are the things that you have to have for that prepositional phrase. The street was slippery near my house. We'll take off the period and near my house. That's going to give it a little bit more. You got a preposition here, you got a noun here, a little bit more meaning. Okay, now we're going to transfer that down to these kind of sentences. These are the ones we talked about yesterday with the dependent and the independent clauses. Remember, the independent clauses are the ones that can stand all by themselves. They have a subject, just like this one had a subject, and it has a verb, was falling. This one has a subject, street, was. Well, these also are going to have, the independent ones are going to have a subject and a verb, but they're also going to have one of those joining words on the beginning, and that's when they become dependent. So let's read this first one. Because it rained yesterday, does that again give you that feeling that there ought to be more to the sentence? Because there should. So this one is going to be a dependent clause because it's dependent on there being more to it. And it also starts with, we're going to circle those, it starts with one of those joining words. All right? Let's see. We will not mow the lawn today. That one's perfectly fine. We will not mow the lawn today. We is the subject. Will and not are the verbs. And we've got a complete thought. So that one's an independent clause. You see how that works? If they're going to be dependent, they're going to have one of these joining words on at the beginning. We will wait for a sunny day. Well, we've got we is the subject. Will, wait is the verb. Then we've got this prepositional phrase, which gives another little bit of meaning to it, which is good. But it has subject, verb, has a complete thought, so it's independent. Independent says I can stand alone. Remember that? When the grass is dry. When the grass is dry. Well, the when should be something that your head should be going, oh, that's one of those joining words. If it's joining, that means there's something over here that it should be joining with. We do have a subject, we do have a verb, but we don't have a complete thought. So this one is going to be a DC, a dependent clause. It's dependent upon there being some more words over there. Now, if they ask you, or if you were asked to make these complete, let's see how we could do that. Let me get another marker here. This one is dependent. In other words, it's saying there should be something else. Because it rained yesterday, what else could you say? Because it rained yesterday, let's see. We played. We played in the puddles. In the puddles. Now that changes it. It's no longer dependent. It now becomes an independent clause because you've added something to it. That addition is what makes it now independent clause. You see how that works? If it's already dependent, let's see, if it's already complete, we don't have to add anything to it on the independent ones. What about this one down here that we said was dependent? When the grass is dry, what can we add to that? When the grass is dry, we can play on it. You can add more to the sentence that will make it change from being dependent to being independent. Your sentences always want to be independent all on their own. Okay, let's take a look in the textbook real quickly here. 287. Look at number 1 there. The Cape Flannery Lighthouse is important. What about that one? Well, the Cape Flannery Lighthouse, that's the subject. The is the verb, is important. It's a whole thought. So that's an IC. You just need to write IC on the line. You don't have to do anything else on those other lines. Look at number 2. Since the lighthouse was built on Native American lands, that's definitely a DC. It's dependent. You've got to add something to it. So you don't want to go, well, it's short, so it must be dependent. No, the length of it is not what makes it a dependent or independent clause. You have to go back to yesterday. That's why I didn't erase it. Let me see. Go back to yesterday. The thing that makes them independent as opposed to dependent is that this one is not a sentence. It probably does have a subject and a predicate, just like this one does, but this one doesn't have a complete thought. And this one is going to have to start with a joining word and then have some other words added to it. So they're on number 2. That is a dependent clause because there's got to be something else added to it. Or if you could do it the opposite way, you can also remove something. If you look at that one, couldn't we just take the since off on number 2 and have it say the lighthouse was built on Native American lands? Then it becomes a whole sentence that is correct. So that's what you're going to write on that line. The lighthouse was built on Native American lands. Just take the joining word out. If it's not joining anything, remove it. It's unnecessary. Okay? Same thing. Look down at number 6. When the lighthouse was finished after 1 1/2 years, why don't we just take, right there it's dependent, why don't we just take the when off? The lighthouse was flooded after 1 1/2 years. So in order to change it from being dependent to being independent, you just remove the joining word. Look over at the opposite page on 288. Independent. Number 1, the Cape Flannery Lighthouse had several different keepers. That was just like how it's fine just like it is. I see. Number 2, although its location is lonely, obviously dependent. It needs something else. There's something missing. So what could you do? Just take the although off and write its location is lonely. All right, so you got it? So if it's got something it doesn't need, like one of these joining words, remove it, and the sentence is probably going to be a complete sentence all by itself. Okay, I hope that helps you. You go ahead and finish up 288, and we'll see you tomorrow for the last installment of language for this week. I love you all. I miss you so much. Bye-bye.